Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim memohon maaf. Apa sebabnya? Permohonan maaf ini dibuat semasa ucapan penutup Persidangan Juruaudit Asean. Jadi sahabat semua, tanpa membuang masa, saya ingin bawakan anda untuk mendengar ucapan Perdana Menteri.
Terima kasih atas kerjasama yang diberikan untuk menjayakan persidangan yang saya anggap sangat kritikal. Bila kita bicara soal tata kelola dan governance, tunggaknya adalah keupayaan kita memberikan penilaian berdasarkan audit yang profesional. Jadi saya ucap terima kasih, apalagi inisiatifnya tu ASEAN. Kita baru selesai malam tadi sidang ASEAN dengan negara Teluk, GCC dan China. Pagi tadi di Kuala Lumpur diteruskan dengan sidang usahawan pelabur yang diselenggara oleh Fortune di antara ASEAN, GCC dan China. Saya mohon maaf kerana sedikit terlambat, kerana daripada situ pagi-pagi tadi saya ke ziarah yang dikasihi Kebahaduli Tuanku Sultan Brunei yang sedang dirawat dan istirahat di hospital. Jadi minta maaf kerana agak sedikit terlambat. It's not in terms of an audit conference, there's no excuse for you to come slightly late. I do apologize because after the international conference of business community, investing community, focusing on digital transformation, AI, I had to spend a bit of time to visit our dear brother, His Majesty, Sultan of Brunei, who's recuperating and resting at the hospital. So I do apologize because you should not come late, particularly to the audit conference. I'll fail the audit in terms of time. So let us talk about ASEAN's commitment. Unity, shared values, reaffirmed during the 46th summit in Kuala Lumpur. But an integral part of this cohesiveness is to ensure that we remain true to our ideals. A community that focuses on responsible and good governance. At the core of this good governance and good governance is to be accountable. Okay, we talk about inclusivity, sustainability, yes. But if you look at the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, the premise is, of course, a responsible and good governance that represents the conscience of the majority of our people, who wants to rid the country of excesses, endemic corruption, and waste. That is why I strongly support ASEAN audit institutions to implement this vision. And more so because we have this woman of steel to head as Auditor General. Extremely tough and unpopular. It doesn't matter because she's not contesting the elections. Or at least for now, I don't know about the future. But the four strategic pillars, fostering good governance, transparency and accountability. That is why I made a particular reference to strengthening administrative systems in our various countries and across member states. Yeah. So it's still governance as the prime strategic pillar. Then only you talk about improving audit quality and financing reporting compliance. Because through this, you can propel economic integration through reliable financial data for investors and stakeholders. People say, well, only through good governance, good auditing, you will attract investments. That's, to me, critical, but not pivotal. It is your responsibility as a person, particularly if you're given a task, to be accountable, to be true, to preserve your own dignity, to do an honest job. Is easier said than done, because now in government I realize it's not necessarily easy, but it can be grossly unpopular. You take action due to the audit report, there will be a stream or coterie of people, vested interests, who will oppose. You say you must have a transparent tender process. You, of course, antagonize those who have been familiar to the old ways. You say, rid the country of corruption, or act against those who have amassed and squandered billions of the country. Hardly much support. So, thank you, Wan Suraya and your team, because you give enough data and evidence to support efforts to improve governance in this country. So now we extend beyond this about upholding the highest standards of transparency and accountability, and through this, strengthen anti-corruption frameworks, again, through the independence of auditors and regulators. Now, auditors in the past, including the big audit firms, are not entirely free from being the target due to excesses. You know that here in this country, and of course, if you look at the more developed industrialized economies, there has been complicity at times. If you look at, for example, the story of the 1MDB scandal, complicity of the big audit firms. So, it's not a matter of hectoring by them or lecture. We have it enough. So we have to prepare to face the challenges in our country and in our region. That is why, to my mind, it's a particularly important endeavor that audit institutions to be empowered to operate independently and to follow the trail of accountability wherever it leads. Now, having said that, I'm telling you as Prime Minister, it's not easy. Particularly, we have a tough DG like this. But she's doing her job. That is why I've mentioned this to my cabinet colleagues. Even I don't determine what should be the results of the priority. They briefed me, of course, recently, last 2 weeks or so, about the report, but brief not for me to go and interfere and change the report. I said, brief me just before I present the report to the cabinet to be presented to the parliament for an open public debate. That is what we mean by good governance and transparency. Now, and this ultimately will strengthen governance and integrity, and will be reflected in sustained improvement, again, to the corruption perception index. So let me give you this encouragement. You want to see the future of ASEAN is this cohesiveness. This is trust. This is bond that would want to showcase the region, the most peaceful region in the world right now, and the fastest growing economy in the world. It's 650 million people. But to showcase, not because of numbers, not because of our economic strength, but because we represent a region that's peaceful and that honors good principles of good governance and accountability. And I'm extremely pleased when, through our consensus, we agreed with this Vision 2045. And this is what we mean, and I believe Auditor Generals of ASEAN should grasp, digest this report, and see the thinking of our policymakers. Our duty is, of course, to give you, first, political stability, which is a precondition, but then clarity of policies. And we see this working among the ASEAN. I mentioned this morning that this 26-page statement endorsed by ASEAN leaders, GCC, and China. The interest is not to combat or to have contentious debates with the rest. No. We talk about centrality in ASEAN. As an independent country, we should work with everyone for the benefit of our people. So we decided to work with the GCC. And because we are in the region with this growing economic and military power of China, it makes a lot of sense for us to coordinate, work with them. At the same time, the United States remain one of the most important player in terms of investments and trade. So we must continue to engage with EU, with all countries. I must mention Yemen, with the ambassadors saying Yemen is here, Yemen is here. Of course I can see. So do we take that position, and I think that consensus has given this rise. But the principles again, we are talking about AI this morning. I'm relate because you're now focusing on AI. And some talk from OpenAI to ChatGPT, they're all there. So I said, look, can I then extend the discourse a little bit more? Because I think in audit, in governance, in customs and immigration, we're now exploring into AI, including police, to be able to monitor effectively. And they would help in terms of accountability and audit. No. But don't ever forget, why do you want to have a good auditing system? And now through AI. Why do you want to talk about governance? Why do you want to resolve the problem of abject poverty? And to address the issue of inequality? Because we want to protect human dignity. Because we have values. Now, why do you want to have a good auditing system? Because we want to avoid excesses and abuses and corruption. Why? Because we want to protect the honor and dignity of every man and woman. Essentially that, which means the issue of faith, of values. So when you talk about AI, don't ever ignore the importance of values, of faith, of moral and ethical precepts. And I believe among the auditors, among the staff, and the people you train, must always instill this. It's not only a matter of sound public finances, but also to uphold values which will serve yourself, family, country, region. It's about peace, fairness, accountability, and fair and opportunity for all. I hope I'm not digressing from your focus on your discussion, but I feel strongly that without focusing on the issue of human dignity, shared values, common destiny, we are leaving it to the unscrupulous players devoid of morality and ethics. Corruption is tolerated, oppression of man by man is condoned, killings and colonization, they cause so much devastation, is tolerated for 101 reasons. That's why I'm very pleased that one important resolution in the statement is on Gaza. I mean, what such a hypocrisy. This is 2025. We have the best auditors, but we don't audit character and values of the human being. Every day we see children and women being bombed and killed. And it doesn't touch or concern and feeling, because probably their color or their faith. But this is an abandonment of principles and values. You can have a very good audit system. That's why I have stressed, even for auditors, accountants, regulators, private sector leaders must reaffirm this essential truth, that good and accountable governance based on values and human dignity must be the foundation of a sustainable and equitable development. So, thank you, Anwar. Thank you, the team. Thank you for the guests and speakers that have given all the support for this conference. And may you continue to lead. And your auditors, if they are really independent and effective, are as powerful as the Anti-Corruption Commission. And we want them to continue to play that role. Not because they're vicious, not because they're politically biased, but because they honor these core principles and values. How many countries that you have seen, if you understand historical antecedents, they have achieved greatness in the past, but degenerated, declined, purely because of greed, corruption, and abuse, which does not uphold these core principles. Even in Islamic history, you know that the institution Hisbah, like public accountability, was quite core and fundamental. But we have lost them. We talk about Islam, but then we don't honor, implement the core principles and values about truth, about honor, about human dignity, and Hisbah, which is public accountability. So thank you very much for being patient enough to listen to this morning lecture. But normally, I don't subscribe too much to this text that Wan Suraya helped prepare. But I share the sentiments here. You can circulate. But normally I choose in conferences such as this, which I think the foundation of good governance, to express what I strongly believe, and I express from the bottom of my heart. So, thank you, terima kasih.